Thank you, Speaker. On June 20, 2001, the United Nations declared the first World Refugee Day in recognition of the 50th anniversary of the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees. That convention provides the framework for the definition of the term refugee that we still use today, and clearly sets out the rights of individuals seeking refuge or asylum in a country other than their birthplace, and the responsibilities such a country must meet in return. Every year since 2001, countries around the world recognise the week of June 20 as World Refugee Week and use it as a time to commemorate refugees, their complex experiences and all they contribute to their new homes and countries. Remarkably, the first Refugee Week in Australia predates the official United Nations Week. For once, in an area in which we have a history that has at times been nothing short of shameful and remains so, we were indeed once ahead of the curve. That first Refugee Week, Speaker, took place not far from here, on Gadigal land, on November 1986, when members of Austcare, the Australians Care for Refugees group, marched peacefully from Belmore Park to the Domain. Together with 200 other community members, including refugees from Vietnam, Chile, South Africa, and Afghanistan, their message was clear, that refugees are welcome here. But while the community may have led the global curve in 1983 in Australia, shamefully successive governments from all sides of politics have been falling behind and failed to uphold the legacy of compassion and courage that we need to be showing refugees and asylum seekers in this country. When it comes to refugees and people seeking asylum, Australia now has some of the most punitive policies in the world. Since September 2012, people who arrive on our shores seeking refuge and asylum have been sent to Nauru and Papua New Guinea under the offshore processing regime set up under the Gillard Federal Labor Government. Organisations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have raised the alarm on horrific human rights violations that take place in these offshore detention centres, but people are still being held there. As of April 30 this year, under the federal Labor government and Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, the Refugee Council of Australia reports that 64 people are still being held on Nauru and a further 64 on Manus Island. Let me be really clear. This is an absolute contradiction to human rights law and our commitments to ensuring that refugees and asylum seekers are treated with dignity and respect. Australia is the only country in the world that imposes a mandatory detention and offshore processing policy for people who arrive here seeking refuge and asylum, and it is an absolute disgrace that we are seeing these kinds of policies now adopted by conservative parties across the world. And even when people are released from immigration detention centres into the community and recognised as refugees, many face years of visa-related limbo during which they struggle to access education, housing, healthcare and other essentials. Labor must end offshore detention now and immediately bring all those being held in Nauru and Manus Island here. It is impossible to speak about refugees in this place in Refugee Week right now without acknowledging the ongoing genocidal attacks in Gaza by the apartheid state of Israel, which has forced more than 120,000 Palestinians to seek safety overseas and internally displaced over 1.5 million. As signatories to the Refugee Convention, Australia has a duty to welcome refugees, but since October 2023, we have only issued 2,000 visas to Palestinians fleeing catastrophic violence in their homeland. Shamefully, we have even refused 460 applications. We can and must do so much more. For those few who have found safety in our communities, we must ensure that they have access to vital food, healthcare, education and housing services they need. We can start here in New South Wales by removing the permanent residency and citizenship requirements for access to social housing in New South Wales by heeding the calls of experts to invest in dedicated support services and crisis accommodation for non-citizens. And here I want to acknowledge that the government is failing to give refugees the support that they desperately need from our communities and non-government organisations. So many in our communities do so much to directly support refugees and asylum seekers, and I want to give a shout out to the amazing folks at Addy Road Community Centre, the Asylum Seekers Centre in my own electorate of Newtown, and the House of Welcome, who are doing vital work to connect people. It is absolutely critical that we remember that refugees are not others coming from another land. They are living among us, they are welcome here, and they deserve dignity, human rights, and respect.